Two Kids and a Career is a production of Jill Devine Media.
And so how can we abundantly live and not be numb?
I do know people, and I have just told you this, like they just don't think they can change. They just think I'm too old or I'm set in my ways. They don't want to put in the work. And I don't want to live like that. Not only do I not want to live like that for myself, I don't want to live like that for my girls. And I want to teach them to do the work and to constantly work on their self, because everybody is a work in progress. It doesn't matter how old you are. Evoke Creative is a proud sponsor of Two Kids and a Career. They help small business owners like me brand with purpose and market with intent. The ladies at Evoke Creative will help make your digital presence known. Learn more at evokecco.com. That's evokecco.com. Hi there, and welcome to Two Kids and a Career. I'm Jill Devine. As an entrepreneur, wife, and mama, the daily grind of trying to build a business while taking care of kids and trying to maintain a healthy connection with my hubby, it's a lot. With this podcast, you're going to hear candid conversations with other moms, parenting experts who can share their knowledge and insight, or you'll just hear me rambling to get it all out. There's going to be tears, there's going to be laughter, but most importantly, there will be support. Take a listen and connect with me so we can grow and learn from one another. This is Two Kids and a Career. All right, I am going to ask you to stick around until the end of the episode so that you can hear this week's Supermom shout out. I'm also going to ask you, before I even get into the episode, to make sure you like, subscribe, rate, review, all the good things for the podcast, because what happens is when those things happen, the podcast gets in the hands of a lot of people. And then there's maybe somebody listening that has never listened, and they're exposed to this and they can learn some good stuff. So here's the thing. I always say I want one episode to just help somebody. And that's all I want. And that's why it's so important that we can share the information. So I'm excited to have this week's guest on for numerous reasons. But first, let me just introduce Amy Horn. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
So Amy, it goes to what has been happening lately. And if you've been paying attention to the podcast, like this wonderful, beautiful movement of women supporting women and meeting people on social media and just helping one another out, and these small businesses, which that's you. You are going to explain all that good stuff. But what's even crazier, and I don't know why I continue to be surprised at the way that God shows up in our lives, but recently I was having a conversation with a woman, and I have a 2 and a 4-year-old, and she has kids that are in college. And we were just talking a little bit about that. And she said, it's always good to have someone a couple of seasons or a season ahead of you to help you, because then you can kind of get their thoughts and their perspective on things. And she was talking about not just kids, but in life and career. And I thought that was some really good advice, because I have had women contact me that will say, oh, just wait, I'm in this stage of things and you just wait. And, you know, I've invited some of those women to come on and it's just not really worked out. And so it was like, oh, well, Amy is a small business owner and she has kiddos that are older than my kiddos. We could talk about all these things. And it was interesting too, because just the other night I was talking to my husband about that, and I don't know. Well, I'll get back to that, because first I want you to, let's first start with the business. Tell me about that and how things are going for you.
Gosh, it's such a long story. And
well, we've got time.
Where the beginning is. I am a chiropractor. I've been a chiropractor for coming up on 21 years. And so, I graduated and a year later was married and had a baby. And so I not only was starting a business, but I was starting a marriage, and I was starting motherhood. And, you know, I was I was in my mid-20s. And so that was a lot of change in a short amount of time, a lot of big change. And so I, over the course of a couple of years, had another baby. Uh, and starting a business at that time was just not, my energy was not there. And so I became an associate in a practice. So I worked with another doctor, and so I at least had a steady paycheck coming in. I could rely on all of that. And as she was a mom as well, and I really loved how we came to know each other. We met at a seminar, and she wanted to take some time off to be with her kids, and I wanted to work and have time with my kids. So we shared the week basically. We each worked 3 full days a week. We each had 3-day weekends. And so I worked with somebody that was in the same spot as me. So there was a lot of understanding of not sleeping through the night, racing to if somebody's not feeling well in the morning. Lo and behold, she eventually sold her practice to me, and I then became a business owner again. So, gosh, that's been 10 years now. I've owned this business, and in the last 3, I've moved. I was working in a strip mall, and there was a piece of property across the street from that strip mall. And about 5 years ago, I started to get this itch of my dream is bigger. I want more of this. I want to spread. I want to spread my influence and really the what's in my heart for this community. And so I bought a building and some property, and I created not only a practice but a building of what I consider not only my dream but also potential and possibility of what's to come and what's to offer people. So I have a lot of, I would consider a lot of experience in managing not only a business, but a family, a marriage. And, it hasn't been pretty a lot of the time, but it's actually been really rewarding. And I feel like I have a lot to share.
Yes, you do. I'm going to be asking all the questions. It's hard. I mean, it is hard to, yeah, I find myself sinking more than anything. And
Mhm.
it's definitely hard. And it's one of those things that you question sometimes, like, what am I doing?
Mhm.
Why am I doing this? And I've said this before on different episodes, like, why am I not making any money, but I'm so stressed out, and
Mhm.
what am I doing? But there's something about, like, for me and this that fuels me. It fills my bucket. I say that all the
Mhm.
time. And that's what I'm learning from a
Mhm.
lot of other small business owners, and just this idea of filling that bucket.
Well, and the bucket analogy is super interesting because you can't pour from an empty bucket. And so I think that's one of the secrets to my success is where do I fill my own bucket? And I've learned over the years that I'm very selective with who I let fill my bucket. And I think that now more than any time ever is a super important hack for your life is to really take note of who is filling your bucket so that you can pour from your own appropriately.
It's not what, it's who. I didn't think of it that way.
I think a little bit of both. Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. Not only what you're filling, but we'll talk about the energy of the people around you, or the advice, or who those people are. I've done a lot of work, self help work, a lot of just internal life coaching kind of stuff to define and to understand where I've come from so I can really better know where I'm going.
I'm glad you brought that up, because one of the things I've talked about too lately is that I chose self-care as my word for 2021. And I've joked around about it before in recent episodes, like, I don't really know what that means. Somebody asked me, they're like, well, what does that mean for you? And I was like, I don't know, because I don't know exactly what it is that I need, but if I'm saying that, I know I need something. And so I've been trying to figure out what those things are. And I read a lot of self-help books. I try to just do a lot of things to work on myself because I know that different things can improve and they can improve over time. None of the stuff that I'm trying to do or you or anybody, it won't, it's not going to happen overnight by any means. But the thing is like you have to put in the work. Like you have to do that. Like you have to put in the work in order to want to change. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
always trying to tell that to people, like, or I'll hear, "Oh, well, I don't like to read books or whatever." I'm like, "Well, listen to a book or journal."
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they're just not interested in it. At that point, I'm like, "I can't continue to help you. Like you can only help yourself."
Mm-hmm. And I think one of the hardest things is to find the people that you trust wholeheartedly, and have them tell you the hard truths. You have to come to terms with some hard truths too, and be
Yeah.
ready to. And that goes back to who's filling your bucket, because I don't listen to everyone's opinions, but there are people that I trust, and and I listen to their critique or their the truths that I sometimes have to hear about myself, and do something about that.
Okay, so I want to get to your kids, but first with the business, it sounds like you, besides being a chiropractor, you're adding a bunch of these different elements that seem to be pretty interesting to me into your practice. Is that correct? Like, are you going to be able to help my mind
Yes.
along with my body?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think so. And not that I'm trained. I really just speak from experience on that. And I think that is also what makes my business unique, is the authenticity. If I were to say my ideal patient, which I see anyone, I see children, I see husbands, but I've been a woman. I've been a woman trying to raise kids. I've been a working mom. So that person is someone that I can relate to wholeheartedly and say, I just there is some attention that we need to pay to those people, and I just try to speak from my own experience and what has worked for me, and I think that's how I'm most helpful. And yes, I am trying to gear not only my building. I have some land that's associated with this building, and I my ultimate dream is to make a wellness center that people can, a multidisciplinary, can come here and expect to have an answer, or to be able to change their life in a positive way and not just band-aid it. So I don't know exactly who that is or what that looks like, but um, I'm open to those possibilities.
Let's hit pause real fast on this conversation, Amy. I want to talk about another business that is ran by two incredible women, just like yourself, Amy. This is pretty much like the same as you. They had this dream, they had this vision, and they went for it. And I am talking about the ladies behind Evoke Creative. So they are the ones that have really helped me understand the different things that I need to grow and just build upon my business. I am a brand new business owner. I mean, I am a little over a year in, and although it feels like forever, it's really not. And that's what the ladies do at Evoke. They not only come to you with different ideas on how to market your brand, but they can create your website for you. They can create a social media campaign for you. They just want to make sure they are helping you succeed, because there are all these different ins and outs and rules and algorithms and all this crazy stuff that they take the time to research so that you don't have to. And then they say, hey, do this and make yourself known. You can see their work right now by visiting evokecco.com. It's evokecco.com. All right, back to the conversation with Amy. Can I tell you that this is crazy, because my best friends and I, one of them, she was talking about this wellness retreat that her mom went on. It was pretty pricey. And I said,
Mm-hmm.
oh, we
Mm-hmm.
should do that for our 50th birthdays. Like, we need to just go all in. Like, I love a good girls trip, but man, there is something so enticing to me about going away to a wellness place, for me personally, to get in touch with my body and my mind even more, and just learn from it, like, just really dig into it. And I have to say that the price is one of those things where you're like, oh, I don't know about that, after you add in flying and all that good stuff. But man, how cool would it be if you could create that in our backyards?
Right. And not just for women. I'm just finding, I feel like coming up on whatever this last year has been
Mm,
for children as well.
yeah.
There's going to have to be some level of reacclimating to ourselves, to our community, and yeah, I want that. I want that I want to be a part of that for people. And I do want I want this place, whatever Abundant Health is the name of my chiropractic business, Abundant Health Chiropractic. And I think that encompasses much more than just, it just encompasses everything. And so how can we abundantly live and not be numb?
Totally. I mean, I'll just throw it out there. You've got about 7 years before I'm 50. So,
Mhm.
if you can,
All right,
make that
girl,
happen, because it's about me, right? Um,
absolutely.
no, but when you said just live and be numb, like, I do know people, and I have just told you this, like, they just don't think they can change. They just think I'm too old, or I'm set in my ways. They don't want to put in the work. And I don't wanna live like that. I mean, I feel like not only do I not wanna live like that for myself, I don't wanna live like that for my girls, and I wanna teach them to do the work and to constantly work on their self, because everybody's a work in progress. It doesn't matter how old you
Yes,
are. You
right.
still have the ability to learn and do things differently. So I love that. I really do.
So on New Year's Day for the last couple of years, we have had an intention setting. So we've gathered some women that I just think New Year's presents, it just is what it is. And I think you could do this any day. We've done this quarterly, but New Year's Day is that day of, okay, let's set an intention for this year. And we've meditated and we've journaled and we've kind of shed. And so those are things that are already happening. And I think and I would encourage people to be open-minded and just try it. You just have to jump in with both feet first, jump in and try it and see what happens. And I think any kind of action toward a goal is important rather than just overly thinking about it and wanting to change. You just have to take little action steps, and that is a good place to start. Just looking for the resources of just open yourself up to what hearing and seeing what resources are out there. And I feel like we have a plethora here of just ideas. Find those people that just have the ideas and do something that feels maybe a little different, or go with it.
What I don't like is this notion or idea, and it always happens somewhere it started, but, like, self-help is just this hippie love fest. You know what I mean? Like, oh,
Mm-hmm. Oh,
they're doing that, so they're just these.
yeah,
Yeah, I hate that. I really,
yeah.
really hate that.
Me too. And because it's not pretty at all. And I think in the space of social media, I think as a seasoned mom, because I have older teenage children, and I have a great friend whose children are just below mine. And she reminds me that I'm her parental, she looks to me for parental advice. And I can be honest with her and say, it is not social media pretty. I will tell you right now, there are many things that it just is not what it just is. It's not pretty. And I'm okay to admit that this as the truth and reality of what really goes on. And it's the same with self-help.
Yeah.
Honestly, it is not pretty.
No, not at all. It's
There's,
ugly.
yeah. And it's continuous work. It's a constant reminder of, oh yeah, this is how I want to show up. It's just
Right.
like physical exercise. It's mental exercise. It's, you can't get to a physical goal and be done. And I think it's the same mentally. You can't get to this mental goal and stop working.
Right. Well, and that's always been my thing is like I've asked this of several guests. Well, how do you know? You talk about how you're in such a positive place and you know what you need to be happy and you're good and how did you get here? How long did it take? And every person I've asked that, there it's been obviously a different answer. And they're like, I think I remember talking to one person and they're like, I don't know if I could give you an exact time, but I think it was like close to 7 years before I realized, "Oh, I'm different than I was when I started this." And I don't think that anybody wants to hear like, "Oh, I'm finally going to be happy or have more peace in my mind in 7 years. That takes forever." It's not that, it's just that continuous work like you were talking about it takes time, and that's what you need to keep doing, and then at some point, based on what these women have told me, like, they just all of a sudden noticed. They just noticed that there
Yes.
was a shift in
Yeah.
certain things, but then they were started to work on something else, and so I think that that's something that I've been better about, like, not trying to say, "Okay, am I gonna wake up today and that turmoil that I fight with is gone?" No, that's just not how it works.
And I will say too, there's something about reaching a goal. I mean, I have crossed off in the last 3 to 5 years major dreams that I had 10 and 15 years ago. And what happens, or what doesn't happen, is that you reach this and you think balloons fall out of the sky and there's horns that are going off, and right, there's not a big celebrate. It's kind of like, oh, okay, I did it. And so I do think then I'm more aware of celebrating the process rather than the destination.
I like that.
Yes, I celebrate that I am taking action. I don't know where it's going to lead me, but if I feel like I'm in action of being or doing something, then you just get there. But you have to celebrate because there's no balloons fall out of the sky for you.
No, they sure don't.
There's really nobody patting you on the back. There's nobody at the
Nope,
finish line patting you on the back.
nope. I think this is a good time to talk about being a seasoned mom. So tell me a little bit more about your kids.
I have a freshman in college. He is at the University of Arkansas. I have he's a boy. I have a senior in high school. He is a boy also. And then my youngest is a daughter, and she's a freshman in high school. I also have a husband that works out of town most of the time. So I generally run my house and my business while he is not in town.
Mm,
So
mm.
we do have an interesting setup.
And you make it work though. I mean, that's just the way it works.
We do. I am super proud of. It's something I question every day of my life. Am I doing this right? And my right doesn't look like everyone else's right, and my right is right for me right now. Um, that is especially with parenting. That is a hard lesson, or maybe it just is. It is what it is, and I'm okay with. It feels good, and that's what I'm going with.
I think about that a lot too. Like I often say I just want to set them up for success. I don't want to
Hmm.
fail them. All I care about
Hmm.
is making sure that I don't screw them up, which I'm going to. I have to say I'll probably screw them up in some way or another. But the thing that my husband and I were talking about not too long ago that I mentioned a little bit earlier in the episode is we were talking about these seasons and I'm in this kind of weird situation because I am considered the older parent. So most of my friends, their kids are older. I would say um middle elementary to up to middle school, getting ready to enter high school. And then I've been able to connect with some people that have kiddos my age. So like to be in it, like they get it. Like I can have that text message like there was no naps today and everybody is crazy and they're getting candy for dinner. Like whatever that may be. Just actually had that
Mhm.
text not too long ago with a friend. But there's this thing that I think stresses me out, which is when I hear from people like you, people like my best friends who my aunts, my mom, anybody like, "You're gonna miss this.
Mhm.
These days go by fast. They grow up so fast. You're really gonna miss this." And this is what my husband and I were talking about. Like, I beat myself up all the time, like being present and getting down on the
Mhm.
floor or that they're attached to my hip even when I'm trying to go to the bathroom and I'm like, feel like a magnet where I'm like, oh my gosh, can mama have some space? And then I told them there's going to be a time where they're not going to want to come out of their room and they're not going to want to talk to me and they're not going to want to sit next to me. And I said, do you think that the people that are in that season right now that how do I word this? Like, even though right now in my particular season, I can say, yes, you guys need to get off my hip. You need to get away and celebrate that in a way where like I know that you are probably going to say to me, yes, it does go by fast and you are going to miss those days. But what we were talking about, and it's hard because he's not here to explain it with me, but like everybody has those moments and those feelings at that time. And I'm not wrong for feeling this way. And I'm not wrong for wanting them off of my hip. And yes, I will miss that when they're older and they don't want to hang out with me.
Yeah.
But it's just, it's the struggle that I have because I do hear it so often. You're gonna miss it. It's not gonna be here. And I'm like, "Well,
I think one of the what I'm hearing, and I think uh, when I then look back, is the comparison to others. And when my kids were that age, I it's probably when I started doing some life coaching and working in a business and being a doctor, especially a chiropractor. I have evening hours, and so I have to be available when after other people's work is done. And so I don't get home till 6:30 at night. So I missed dinner 3 nights a week with my kids. And growing up in my own family, dinner was a very important. We ate together every single night, and
yeah,
that's where we talked about the day. And I did not have that with my children. And so, but I remember specifically um, when I was writing out my goals, um, there was just some disconnect of, okay, what do I want motherhood to look like? How am I going to raise these kids, and how do I fit it all in? And I remember specifically, I can still, gosh, however, 10 plus years later, I can remember one of my goals, a daily goal of mine, was from 7 to 7:30. I spent quality time with my children. And at the time, my kids loved to play Tickle Monster. And I would just go upstairs. I would leave the phone downstairs. I felt judged in that most moms might look at that and say, "Oh my gosh, only 30 minutes. What about reading before bed and doing?" But I think that I spent 30 quality minutes with my children rather than 4 hours of non-quality minutes with them. And they are so supportive of my work and business. They work in this business with me. Um, but I think the quality has something to do with the quantity and the comparison to others. Like my story does not look like someone else's story, and I don't make lunches. I forget to put money in their lunch account, and you know I don't know when the projects are due, and I've let them fail a lot, and that's hard. And that is not the social media pretty of, you know But I am hoping that that makes them responsible adults and that they're learning some of these lessons that they wouldn't otherwise learn if I was constantly on top of all their stuff. I do want to add one more thing, and I think this was a turning point in raising my kids and my, my time with them. And I've shared this with piece of advice with a lot of parents that have children younger than mine. There was a night that I was tucking them all in, and it just in life coaching, I don't know if you've read the book, The Love Languages.
Yes.
And I read that. My husband read that. I really liked that. But it's hard for your kids to define, like, what is their love language?
Right.
And so I tucked them in one night and I said to them very simply, they were young, how do you know that I love you? And they kind of looked at me, I mean, you just do. And I said, no, but like, is there something I say or is there something I do that you think, gosh, she really loves me? And again, I remember this as if it was yesterday, and all of their answers were different. And my oldest son said, when you go kick the soccer ball with me on the front lawn. And my middle son said, when you take me out of school and buy me lunch. And my daughter said, when you lay in bed next to me and read me books. And so in that moment, here's me. I take them to the zoo on my day off and I take them to the pool and all these things that I think, okay, they should know that I really love them. But I listened to those answers and I thought, this is what they need me to do for them. So when my son says, will you kick the soccer ball? Heck yeah, I'm going to stop doing dishes and I'm going to go kick the soccer ball because he needs me to love him in this moment, in this way. Or when my son says, hey, can we go out to lunch? Can you get me out of school on your day off? You know what? Let's do it. We're doing this. And so I just think that was the book, The Love Languages, but in realistic terms, instead of filling out a questionnaire. I think that was one of the turning points in raising my kids and being there for what they needed when they needed it.
Out of everything that we have talked about, that is the most important thing that I took away from our conversation, because it's so true. Like, going back to the social media pretty, you do see when different people post about their vacations or this or that or the lavish things that they can get their kids, which is great. I don't have a problem with it. What I have a problem with is myself when I am like, oh, I wish I could do that for my child. But that's not necessarily what my child needs, or that it has nothing to do with my kids. That is all on me
Mhm.
doing the comparison thing. And so, I wonder if I don't think the 2-year-old would quite grasp that question. I think the
No.
4-year-old would a little bit, but I wonder, do you remember how old they were?
Oh gosh, I would say they were probably like 9, 8, and 5, maybe
Okay.
a give or take.
But you even just made me realize though too, that like just the other day, the oldest, she was like, "Hey, can we just please play hide and seek?" And it was time for lunch, but I said, "Yeah, I'm gonna set a timer though for 10 minutes. We're gonna play
Yeah,
hide and
yeah.
seek, and then we're gonna eat." And so like that's the thing, is that I have to be better about that, because
Hmm.
that's the other thing, like the dishes and stuff. With my kind of personality, sometimes I can't leave the dishes. Like, I cannot let them sit there. And so there are times where I have to struggle with that and the balance, but you're right, like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever it
Hmm.
may be, those minutes are very important to our kids.
And on that note, two things that come to mind. I had all of my babies at home, and my midwife, before I had my first baby, said to me, and again, it's something I remember and advice that I give most new moms that I talk to is, she said, say yes to everything that you can and no only when you have to. And it's amazing because my husband's very different than I, and he says no most of the time. And I say, why are you saying no? Like, it's almost like it's automatic to you. Do you see that if they have a friend over, that actually frees up your time to do what you want, but you see it as, oh my gosh, there's another person here that I have to keep track of. And I say yes and think, well, at least they'll be entertained so that then I can go do or be doing the dishes or some of these other things while they're entertained. So I have found myself, I say yes to a lot of things and only no when it has to be said. And I think my kids were a little older than two, but I remember being at a seminar, and again, this was led by mostly men. So I feel like there was a little disconnect there.
Yeah.
But somebody did say that we all have the same 24 hours in a day. Like there's no changing that. We all have the same 24 hours, and how we use them is up to us. And I do remember, because my exercise lacked, my I journal every day. I wasn't doing that because by the time my kids get up in the morning, I was on. It was a race to get them dressed, to make lunches, to get them to where they needed to be so that I could be to doing what I needed to be doing. And so it was at that moment that I decided I'm gonna thrive on 6 hours of sleep. And I chose to get up early. This might not be for everybody. This is just what works for me. I choose to get up very early in the morning to get those things that I know are healthy for me out of the way so that I'm not taking away from them. So I generally get up at my alarm goes off at 4:30 in the morning, and I do my journaling between 5 and 5:30, and I exercise between 5:30 and 6:15, and then and I'm still in this routine. And even though my kids, one's out of the house and they really just take care of themselves at this point, but I'm able then to at that point get them up and ready for school. I'm making lunches, I'm making breakfast, whatever it is, so that. But my stuff is kind of already out of the way. In the holistic health world, as I'm learning some things, especially for women and hormones, and we really need to really track with the sun. Our rhythms really are in the rhythms of daytime, nighttime, and so if we can really get those rhythms more in tune with the rhythm of the day, I am saying that is just healthier overall as well.
A lot of the different self-help books that I have read, that's one of the things that a lot of the women have said that they've done. Like they've gotten up early. So I am not a morning person. I mean, I'm a forced morning person because of my kiddos, but I feel like maybe right now, and again, this is, like you said, this isn't for everyone, but maybe right now it might be a little tough for me and their ages. However, it's not something that I am ruling out because I do know the benefits of being able to start your day for you. And it's just a different mindset for the rest of the day.
And my exercise then looked like me going down into the basement and doing something as simple as a deck of cards, or just I Google so many different boot camp ideas, routines, that working out at my house is not my favorite, but at that age, that's what I had to do. So when I say that, I was not going to a gym. I was not, my kids got to a certain age and I would walk the dog. And so when they were old, and I mean, they were home alone for a little while for 45 minutes in the morning. I don't know if that's right or wrong, but it kept mom saying. And
Right.
so, and it was at the park right near our house. And so there is trade-off. It doesn't look perfect. We're back to, it's not pretty all the time. There were some decisions that I had to make or trade-offs that had to be made so that we all remained, again, sane.
I appreciate your honesty and your openness because we need to hear more things like that from you and from other women. And so I'm so glad that you accepted the invitation to come on. How can people reach you if they want Dr. Amy Horn on the work side?
Our Facebook page is Abundant Health STL. Our website is abundanthealthstl.com. My office is located in Arnold, again, I'm looking to build a wellness center. I don't think anything like that exists south of the other places in St. Louis. I'm part of SLiiM, which is St. Louis Institute of Integrative Medicine. I urge people that are listening to expand your network and maybe expand your horizon of what should be or what is possible, because I think more is possible than what we know right now. And so just expanding that network and just being open to other possibilities, I think is hugely key, especially for women right now. And that's where I am.
Well, and I will have all of this online at jilldevine.com in the show notes. I think it'd be really cool to have you back to talk about all those things in the future, like just taking a conversation turned medical, like maybe even getting some questions from some of the listeners and just kind of talking about those things that we're not exposed to, that we don't know, and is fairly new concept to some. So if that's something you'd be up for, I would love to have you back.
Absolutely.
And yeah, we'll definitely be talking more about ways to help each other. And again, 7 years, Amy, 7 years we have until I'm 50.
You can do it though. I got you, girl. This is happening before that. So.
Well, from one business mama to another business mama, you know that I am supporting you and I am rooting you on. A couple of other business mamas that I want to support and root on, the ladies behind Evoke Creative. They are the women who really have helped me get to where I am right now with my business and my brand. So they were the ones that said to me after I lost my job in 2019 that they wanted to help me, that they wanted to make sure that my voice was still heard. And they've helped me do that by creating my website, by giving me different ideas on how to promote the podcast, just so many different things. And they love working with small businesses. So check out a little bit of their work. Besides my website, jilldevine.com, you can see more at evokecco.com. All right, now let's get to that Supermom shout out. Now, if you listen to the podcast in order, as far as the episodes when they're released, the last 2 episodes will go hand in hand with this episode as far as the Supermom shout out. I'm going to try to explain how this is all working. So 2 episodes ago, that would be episode 67, the Supermom shout out went to Steph. She was nominated by Nan, and Nan made the nomination on my Instagram at Jill Devine. Well, in that nomination, Nan had tagged Steph's daughter, Addie, to basically confirm that Steph was a great supermom. Addie confirmed it, of course, but Nan also nominated Addie as a Supermom shout out. So Addie's shout out was last week's episode 68. Well, if you can kind of see the pattern here, in that whole nomination exchange, Addie also nominated the initial nominator, Nan of St. Charles. So Nan, it's your turn. Addie says, Nan, I nominate you right back. You're a career-driven, family-focused, incredible friend and incredible person overall. You handle stress with such a level head and always know how to approach life with a wide lens into the future. I am so grateful to call you my friend. Nan, I see you and I support you. And it was fun to see how all of this played out. 1 nomination led to 3 nominations. So deserved. So if you have a Supermom shout out nomination, you can go to Instagram at Jill Devine. You can go to my Facebook, Jill Devine Media. You can go to Twitter at Jill Devine Radio. You can email me, hello@jilldevine.com. I just want that Supermom shout out nomination in my hands so I can start doing the shout out to that special woman in your life, that special mom in your life. Or maybe it's you. Nominate yourself. You can do that. And I want to end this episode by saying thank you for listening to the podcast and for supporting Two Kids in a Career. I'm going to ask you, if you haven't already, subscribe, rate, and review. I would really appreciate that. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. And again, thank you for the support.